The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not representative of the opinions and doctrine of Morris Community Church. We reserve the right to change our minds, and we reserve the right to be wrong. I don't even know what I say anymore. It's been so long. How about welcome to the Roasted Christian Podcast? I'm Bobby.
And I'm John. Here at the Roasted Christian, we like our ideas the way we like our coffee, roasted.
And how is your liking your voice this morning, John? Is that also roasted?
Well, I can sing about an extra half octave lower than normal.
That is one benefit to the cold.
Yeah.
Is my voice does similar to yours. I go Barry White on everyone. And I kind of like that, but
yeah, so I won't be doing as much talking. I don't know how this is coming across in the recording, but it's unpleasant to my ears.
Oh my goodness. Let me bring us both down a little bit. We're a little hot. Yeah, so we're in season 3. We're recording episode 2, but this is our first full episode that we're doing. We recorded one with Mike and Josh and Danny and Diego. Mm-hmm. We had a 4-person interview. It was pretty crazy. Lots of fun I had. And
lots of fun I had as well.
That was good. And so now today we are going to have some coffee tips. I found a couple videos that I think people should go watch because I'm going to start using some of the tips there. We're going to have a guest, Nolan Nordlund, today. He's going to be talking with us about grieving and grieving well. He is a friend of ours. He went to this church when he came to college here, moved on, he got married, and he has quite a story. So we'd like to share that with you and have him share a lot of his heart and what God's been doing with him. And then John and I are going to give our definitive lists of our top 5 movies we've seen. Now, we can't say movies of all time because we haven't seen all the movies.
Haven't seen all the movies. And honestly, mine is always in flux. But I
know that you have an opinion of my movie quality tastes. So we're going to let the world judge.
Is it a high opinion?
No, you have a low opinion of my movie quality taste, which is fine. I mean, everybody can be wrong from time to time. It's okay.
I think I don't know what you want to call it. I am a light-hearted cinema snob. I'm not willing to go all the way to gotta watch A Clockwork Orange. It's the best movie ever made.
But I want to watch that movie. It's weird that you say that movie because that totally is a movie I want to go watch.
I was talking to a guy who went to film school, and it's nobody shuts up about that movie. Every single course you do, it's all about A Clockwork Orange.
Really?
And it's the stupidest thing ever. So he was totally past it. He was over it. No appeal whatsoever. And now I'm I'm a little bit intrigued.
Yeah. Well, maybe we have to have an RCP
man.
Movie night and watch A Clockwork Orange.
Ooh. Okay. I don't know.
There's many movies I haven't seen that I want. I haven't seen Casablanca.
You should watch Casablanca.
I should watch that.
That's one to be seen.
That's one to be seen, right? So I think there are just in, I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I think either in season 1 or season 2, I gave my diatribe of how I just hated that movie, but I had to see it.
Right. Yep. Certain movies. The point could be argued, but as far as people who like movies, certain movies have to be seen, even if you're not going to like it.
Yeah, you got to say you saw it once and you agree with the masses. This movie blows. You just you got to watch.
Right. It was bad.
They were right. This sucked. I don't say the same for probably movies that have been made. I would say the majority of movies that have been made in the last 10 years are not movies that we would put on the list for people to say, you have to see this movie. There might be a handful. There might be 5 movies.
My 5.
And they're your 5. All your 5 movies have been in the top last 10 years of being made?
No. Not all 5.
Okay. Well, we'll save whether or not mine are.
You are significantly older, Bob.
Am I only 3 years old? Are you 30 yet?
No.
Oh, Jesus.
27.
Save me, Jesus. 27?
I'm going to play that
man.
card as long as possible.
As long as I'm alive, you get to play that card, right?
Well, I feel like there's a cutoff where that
it's 6 years after my death, you get to play that card if you're still alive.
Well, there's got to be some kind of
card.
cutoff where, like, well, when I was your age, no longer applies. Because right now, you can
to
say...
both people talking. Yeah,
Right.
to me saying that to you, it's like, well, shut up. I'm only 6 years younger than you, but we're both 55.
I mean, like, yeah,
have
exactly.
we both crossed 50? And then like, once that happens, we can't say when I was your age?
I mean, you talk about, like, TV shows and, like, you know, music and some, like, pop culture that I wasn't conscious for.
Sure, yeah.
Part of it was because you probably had a TV, like, 10 years before I did, but...
Yeah, we had TVs.
Yeah.
We didn't dive into that Christian culture. It's like no TV.
So at some point, I feel like the pop culture experience will have lived long enough where there's, you know, 99% of it is the same,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't really matter anymore. But for now, like I didn't get the Barry White reference.
Oh,
So there's that.
so I say Barry White with your voice, and you're like, you got no idea.
I just let it slide because I'm not going to reveal my ignorance.
All right.
Until
Well,
now.
we're gonna play some Barry White for John later, and he's gonna. You'll know it when you hear it.
Oh, I'm sure.
You'll know it when you hear it. Okay. So, what else? We got things have been happening in the news. Comey's been fired. Trump claims that he coined the phrase "prime the pump."
He said he coined it?
Well, he said, like, I just invented it.
Oh, my goodness.
And he may have been saying, I'm going to give him a slight benefit of the doubt. He may have been saying, in the context of economics and, like, the specific realm he's talking about, he's now the first person ever to use the word or the phrase prime the pump when referring to this specific situation in his interview.
Okay.
But I'd almost guarantee he's not anyway. Things have been crazy since we signed off last.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah, he basically
Prime
said
the pump is an 84-year-old phrase
at least
that he claimed he coined.
Now here's another question. Do you think he has ever actually primed a pump in his life?
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, now he's older. I mean, he said he I don't know his exact, like, when I was 17, what was his, like, did he have a farm that he lived on? Like, I know his dad was a businessman. Was he I can't remember. Was his dad in real estate as well? And that's how he got his, like, here's your $1 million graduation gift, son. Go start a business.
Yeah.
But giving that scenario, here's your $1 million, you know, small loan from your dad. Did he ever have a lawnmower that he had to go prime? Did he ever have a car that he had to go prime? Or did people drive his cars for him? That's what I'm saying is people do things for him when he was younger, but he's never actually had to prime a pump.
I don't know. But he literally said, have you heard that expression before?
Yeah.
To this economist. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And Trump's like, because I haven't heard it. I mean, I just came up with it a couple days ago and I thought it was good.
Oh my.
So it's either the biggest joke in the history of joking.
Presidencies?
Or it's just like straight up lie. I don't know.
Or no, option 3 is
he's
that ignorant.
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah. All of those have equal opportunities.
Right. We're at 33.33% repeating, of course.
Oh,
but speaking of that, what was it, yesterday or the day before was the 12-year anniversary of Leroy Jenkins. Now, do you get that reference?
I do not.
Oh, man.
Yeah, right.
Leroy Jenkins.
So I've heard that like a million times.
Yes. You need to watch the video on YouTube.
Okay, so it's from World of Warcraft?
Yes. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to put the link in the description to the episode anyway for Leroy Jenkins. But so I think it's a staged event, but these guys are talking about, okay, here's our plan of going in to attack this area. There's like, you know, 5, 8, 10 guys or whatever, all talking, playing together online to go attack like a certain spot. And they're all given like these probabilities, like 33.33% repeating, of course, like percentage chance of victory that we're going to have here. Yeah. And who's going to do what, who's going to attack when. And then this guy just like chimes in and goes, all right, fellas, follow me. Leroy Jenkins. And he just rushes in and they all go, where'd Leroy go? And then they all try to, and everybody dies.
Nice.
And they even had it on as a clue on Jeopardy. Like, Leroy Jenkins, blah, 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 blah. And I think it was a World of Warcraft, answer. But, yeah, it's 12 years of Leroy Jenkins. So when you're gonna next time you're gonna plow into something unexpectedly or not fully prepared,
that's
just
pretty much
announce,
my MO.
Yeah, just announce that you're Leroy Jenkins this thing,
all right,
and go in. It's funny. Okay. Well,
you read a book.
I read a book. I've read 2 books.
Wow.
One of my goals for 2017 was to read 5 books this year. I have read 2 books. I read Raptureless that Mr. Mike Giordano in season 2 recommended when doing our End Times podcast. I would also I know you started it. Did you read it? Finish it?
I would not claim that I've even started it. I think I read the back cover maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, that's about all you need. No.
I'm convinced.
Yeah, I'm convinced. That's all it takes. I would recommend for any Christian to read this because I think whatever your starting point is on End Times, whatever your end point's going to be on End Times, this is a good book to give, essentially evidence for Matthew 24 being about Jerusalem AD 70, and not an end of the world scenario of what Jesus is talking about. He goes through a crazy amount of evidence, historical evidence. He goes through verse by verse essentially and gives the historical facts about how this was fulfilled in AD 70. Highly recommend it to people to wrestle with. It gives a good framework for other end times verses. I'm not convinced of everything he wrote in the book, especially parts of that he has in the end of certain interpretations he has of other verses and things that Jesus said. But for the most part, just going off of Matthew 24, definitely think this is a read for people who enjoy talking about or thinking about or discussing and learning about end times theology. So highly recommend Raptureless. You can get it. I got it on Amazon Kindle. I like my Kindle for these kind of things. It was a fast read that way. So go with the Kindle. All right. Any other chit chat? Anything else you want to talk about?
Nope.
It's a gorgeous day, and I wish we could play some disc golf.
Yeah, I'm taking the fam hiking today, and then we're gonna get blizzards at DQ and Starbucks after.
That's a good plan, John. That's a good family man right there. All right, what are you drinking, and what did you give me to drink? Because I brought something to drink, and I drank your drink, and your drink is much better of a drink than my drink.
My drink was made with, and your drink, I think it's called like Coffee Classics or something.
Okay.
I bought it at Meadowland, the local Dent and Bent grocery deal. And it's pretty hit and miss what you're going to find there. But they got a giant bulk thing, like shelves and shelves and shelves of coffee. And they've got 2-pound bags, they've got whole bean, they've got ground, all in the same brand. And we tried some out for work, and it was actually not half bad. It was a major step up from Folgers. So I actually got some while I was waiting for the weather to warm up so I can start roasting outside. And so this is Sumatra, I believe, Mandeling. And yeah, it's pretty good. It ousted your Folgers.
It ousted my Folgers? Really? No way.
Yeah.
All right. Let's we gotta get Nolan on here soon.
So you're gonna talk about the coffee?
Yeah, so coffee. Yes. Why are my hangouts like gone? This is stupid. Coffee tips. I wanted to highlight a couple videos that I think people should go and watch for some good coffee tips. I saw a couple videos. I'll have the links in the description. One was a video tip on the French press, and one was just 5 home tips. The French press gives what he calls the golden ratio of grounds to water. And I'm going to start using that. I'd recommend that for other people too, to test that out. And I'd love to hear people's feedback on what their golden ratios are, if they tested it and they liked it, if they thought it was too strong, too weak, whatever is the case on that. I would like to hear people's feedback. So hit us up on Facebook or Twitter if you hit the golden ratio, if you thought it was too weak or too strong. And the other video is 5 home tips, and I'll give you a sneak peek. He talks about pre-infusion of your coffee.
Is that brewing coffee with coffee?
No.
Okay, good.
So you should watch.
That is terrible, by the
way. No, you should go watch these 2 videos. I'll put the link in the description. Great coffee tips. If you're thinking about French press and how do I make it and what's a good way to keep consistent, making sure that you have the weighing with a scale your grounds and your water. But then also another tip about pre-infusing your coffee. So check those 2 videos out for your coffee needs. All right, with that, I think we're going to get started with our fresh roast. All right, so fresh roast. Today we have as a guest Nolan Nordlund. Nolan, say hi.
Hi.
Nolan says hi. Nolan, when did you come to college at UMM?
I started there in 2006.
2006. So that would have been. Yep. So your first year was fall of 2006 and 2007.
Graduated in 2010.
Okay, so I graduated in 2006 from UMM. So you were a freshman the year after I graduated.
Yeah.
You came to UMM. You joined our church pretty quickly because your home
awesome.
church. We were awesome, and we wanted to just give you.
You made it through my intense vetting process.
of I've heard of you before.
Yeah. Yep.
Our church has had relationship, and through our network, and so you hopped on board with us right away. We also wanted to give you a life of what it looked like to do mobile church in an auditorium, because we knew that 10 years later that's what you'd be doing. So
yep.
We met. You played in worship bands for us at church. You also led a little bit. So you better make sure we're gonna tout this. Nolan's doing a worship podcast, so we're gonna talk more about that. We're gonna talk more about that. But when you talk about us, because you must, as part of your learning experience of being a worship leader, when you speak of us, speak well.
I can't promise anything, buddy.
You must use like different names, like
the
Abby Bulbertson and different things like that. But tell us a little bit about after college. You started in CTI Ministries. What's CTI Ministries?
So CTI Music Ministries, because people ask all the time, CTI stands for Carpenter's Tools International. The name is officially just CTI now because the ministry would get listed in like the power tools section of, like Yellow Pages and stuff. It'd be like Acme Tools, Carpenter's Tools International.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that threw me off whenever people came through like, we're doing Carpenter's Tools. And I'm like, what?
So is it a session or?
You're like going to build houses?
We also, there's a guy who, I'm sort of getting ahead of myself a little bit because I haven't explained it, but there's a guy in Montana who used to host teams for years and years. And he loved having teams, and a group would show up and he'd be like, the tools are here. All right. Yeah.
The tools. Look at these tools up here. These people are just tools.
The band full of tools. Mm-hmm. So CTI Music Ministries, it started out of Youth for Christ back in the 70s. And at first it was just a group of musicians who wanted to play, for churches in the area. I guess be a blessing, we'll say. And, so it just kind of slowly expanded from there. And after, 40 years or so, they're still going, and now it's become its own thing. I was in it for 2 years in a row, 2 full year commitments.
Yeah.
So I got to go to Taiwan twice, Guatemala once, traveled all over the U.S., Canada. I can't tell you all the places I've been, but I'm assuming I've been to at least 40 plus states. Wow. And we played about 450 concerts the 2 years that I was in it.
Wow.
So, and I use the term concert very, very loosely here.
Yeah, it's not like 1,000-pack stadium, 1,000-people pack stadium.
I mean, it was cool because we did get a couple opportunities to play for huge crowds like that, playing for 1,000 people or so.
Wow.
But we also played concerts, quote unquote, that were a hayride, or here, there's a farmer's market. We want you to play music at this farmer's market where a bunch of people will just ignore you and go about their business.
Oh, lovely. Or street corner, right? You would do street corner stuff too.
It was just whatever people wanted us to do, basically, we would do it. So very interesting times.
So you met your wife there.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about Gretchen.
Yeah, so Gretchen was a CTI legend in as far as all that goes. It's a really high turnover kind of thing, because it's mostly people that are coming right out of high school or out of college, so it's transitional state of life anyways. Mm-hmm. But it's really intense, and they have summer teams that'll just go somewhere for about a month. They'll train for 2 weeks and then go overseas for a month. So a lot of those people, that's like the entry level. You do that one time. That's most people. They went on one summer team and then they never did anything again.
Yeah.
Gretchen, I always forget how much she did, but I'm pretty sure she did 4 summer teams.
Wow.
2 full years, and she also was an office staff member for a year. So, I mean, most people, it's reasonable to expect that someone's more or less involved with the ministry for about a year, and then they kind of go their separate way, and you don't really hear about them anywhere or again. Yeah. But she was heavily involved for 6 to 7 years. So wow, she's definitely legend status as far as that goes.
Awesome. And
so I feel like I have to automatically be a legend because things worked out for me. Awesome. It is kind of cool because doing the 2 years, there's so many things about CTI that were great. Just the intentionality of that community and being a part of a group of people that care as much about the gospel as they do. Man, it's just amazing to be a part of that. But then to go through it for a second year, it's almost like taking it to a more intensified group, because then there's sort of this even smaller pocket of people that have I know what it's like to get to the end of your first year, and then Paul asks you to come back and do a second year, and you're like, oh crap, I guess I better do this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's cool. I went to a buddy's wedding in Oregon a couple months ago, and there was a group of people from CTI out there that all flew across the country to go celebrate with them, and just sitting down and have breakfast with them the day after the wedding. And there's all these people. Almost everyone had done 2 years, and it's so cool because some of those people I was on a team with, but some of them were just kind of around. I knew who they were, but I didn't really know them very well. But there's such a deep level of trust, and I don't know. You just don't have to worry about anything. It's basically you can treat them like they're one of your best friends right off the bat without knowing anything about them. Just be like, oh yeah, you're a CTI 2-year person. Let's talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You instantly have a kinship. You have a shared experience that you can always refer to.
Yep.
So you met Gretchen at CTI. How did she, all of a sudden, well, you're in a small quarters, there's a beautiful woman who's on your team, you're like, okay, I'm just going to marry you? Or, was it a little different than that? Or like,
it was way longer drawn out process than that.
Really?
Yeah. So CTI, they discourage relationships, between among team members for very good reason. There are people who have dated in the past and then broke up partway through the year, and then it's like, oh crap, you still have to live in this van together for 6 more months.
Yeah.
So have fun dealing with that.
Yeah.
And boy, going through that kind of a experience, you start to really see how your individual decisions affect a group when you're that tightly integrated. So, I mean, you just have to really pay attention to all that kind of stuff. So they discourage dating. And of course, before we've even finished training to start our year, I've already realized okay, I like her. That's great. Got 90% of the year left to go, and I know I like her. So we went on the road, and I try to play it cool and not let on, but it's pretty obvious to people, I think. And
oh yeah,
and there are some people that never caught on, but other guys who are just oblivious to what was going on. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. For me, it's always it starts with superficial stuff, oh, you're interesting, because hey, you are pretty, and you're an amazing singer, and you're just kind of funny. Funny. I'll just say kind of funny. But I mean, the more we're around each other, it was obvious that Gretchen just had extremely deep heart for people coming to know Jesus, and that's what she cared about. That's what she wanted. That's what she wanted to be involved with, and she was insanely wise for her age. It was crazy how she could read into any situation and be like, oh, I think this is what's really going on.
Yeah.
Or and things that I just had never even thought about, that she could just kind of pull out of nowhere, and it's that's obviously that's the gem in this situation, or whatever, the gem of knowledge.
Yeah. But one element of Gretchen is that she had. Can you tell a little bit about her? She had a condition or a disease, or going in right away.
Yeah, so she had cystic fibrosis.
There you go.
And if you don't know what that is, it's primarily it's a genetic disease that primarily affects the lungs. It does a lot more than that, but that's what really takes the brunt.
And she
of the
was
disease.
A singer, so
she was a vocalist. Yeah, so I mean, the entire time I knew her, she was always kind of floating around 30% lung capacity.
Oh man!
So she's basically singing with a half of one lung.
Jeez.
And traveling all over the place. So, and it was
travel
it definitely
could have been hard, man. Had to have been really hard.
Oh yeah, so when she was involved with CTI, the hospital that she would go to most commonly was the University of Minnesota one down in Minneapolis, and they just constantly discouraged her from going on the trips, because they'd be like, I mean, you are literally killing yourself by doing all the stuff that you're doing. You need to do all these treatments, however many times a day, and you need to have all this regimented stuff, and you can't do that when you're traveling. I mean, she did her best to take care of herself, and she'd take treatments when we were in the van and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like she disregarded that kind of stuff, but it was clearly hard on her. And I remember when we went to Taiwan, Taiwan was just tough, lots and lots and lots of walking, and, elevation change, so going up and down hills. So we also had our own apartment. So we worked with YWAM when we were there, and YWAM just gave us an apartment for us to hang out in. And it was on the 5th floor of a building, and there was no elevator. So we'd always just give her piggyback ride up the stairs. Cause I mean, there would be days when she's like, no, I want to do it myself. But like she'd have to stop a couple of times, you know, she's just completely out of breath. So yeah, this is not good. But you know, it's amazing to see how God would use her, because I swear to you that there are times I heard her hold out a note longer than I've heard her hold her breath.
Jeez.
Yeah, she was singing, and yeah, she was really good. Yeah.
So, what? How did the relationship kind of start? So, like, I mean, obviously, at one point you have to kind of confront her and say, "So there's this thing where I kind of like you," and and I think
confront is definitely the word.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it never really got addressed for basically our whole year. Mm-hmm. So, you know, because it started out with me, like I committed. I mean, in my brain, anyways, I had committed to, you know, following CTI's policy. I didn't want to disregard what they were saying. So, for a really long time, I was like actively praying against it. You know, like I didn't want to admit that it was a thing, and I was doing everything I could to fight against it. But you know, for CTI, the way they structure things is you go on several different tours over the course of the year. So I think we did 5 tours total, basically just the time that you are out from the ministry. And I definitely saw this pattern of, at the beginning of a tour, like we'd start out and we'd kind of be at like our acquaintances / friends level. And then as the tour would go on, you know, we'd get closer and closer and closer. And the end of the tour, it'd always be like, wow, things are really good. And I'm pretty sure she really likes me like I like her. And then we'd go back on the next tour and it's like, oh, she hates me. Never mind. So it was, you know, I would just say I'm a kind of dense when it comes to that stuff anyways. Like it's easy for me to maybe spot what is going on with other people. Like, oh, that guy likes her and she likes him, whatever. When it's me, I'm just like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to think about how she felt about me. So we just, like, all that stuff was combined, and I was just trying to fight against it basically the whole time and not acknowledge it. And, you know, so it wasn't until probably like March when I started to really acknowledge that it was a thing, which March would have been, I mean, we started in August, so that's coming really close to the end of our time as a team together before I finally started acknowledging it. And so it all really came to a head after we finished our time traveling. Then we become staff for the summer teams.
Okay.
And things weren't that great between us at that moment. I mean, we're still friends, but I kind of knew that if we left it where it was, we'd go our separate ways and probably wouldn't really even talk to each other. And I was like, all right, well, I really like her. Yeah. It'd be awesome if she wants to, you know, actually have a relationship, but if not, I still need to at least try to clear the air just so we can be friends. Cause it would suck to not even be friends after all this. So I pulled her aside one day. And I mean, pulled her aside. We ended up having like a 6-hour long conversation because we had like, an entire year.
You pull her into the stairwell and you just plant one on her and say, "I think I like you." No.
Yeah. Not quite. No, we talked through all the stuff. I told her how I felt, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't feel the same way." I was like, "Oh, all right, well."
Man.
That's fine. We got done with the conversation, and I honestly did feel good about Seth because my goal at that point wasn't to like convince her to date me. It was we just had to clear the air so we can move past this stuff. And I felt like we had accomplished that. And so maybe like a week or two later, I left for Guatemala. So I was gone for a month. And then I came back, and there was going to be a span of like 2 or 3 days where we might actually be able to see each other again. And then that's when everyone actually leaves. Like our 1 year commitment would be done at that time.
Yeah.
And I had already signed up to do another year. So I'd be working with a new team, and she was moving to Spokane, Washington. And anyways, I came back from Guatemala, and after our final concert, she asked if she could talk to me, and she asked like, well, you still feel the same way? I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, well, yeah, I guess I like you too. Like,
oh man.
So you finally admit it. Oh my God. And I mean, she basically like she said a bunch of stuff that didn't make any sense to me at the time. I was like, I'm glad that you like me, but I don't get reasons. And really what it was is just, I think that God kind of opened her eyes to some different things. Just, I mean, she would say that she, like that month that I wasn't around at all, she started seeing more of God's character in me, and specifically like how I continued to pursue her, even though I was not trying to. I was trying not to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we started dating the day before she moved to Spokane, and before I was officially like working with my next team.
Wow.
So then we dated for a year, with me being on the road constantly. Her in Spokane, we saw each other, I don't know, like maybe 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
And then I finished my second year, moved back home, and was trying to get a job lined up. And she was still in Spokane at this time. It was probably like another 3 or 4 months or so. And finally got things lined up. Like I started working at DigiKey. So we were pretty confident we were going to get married at that point. So she actually moved. Like I flew out to Montana where her parents or her mom lives, and got all of her stuff. And we moved her to Minnesota. She moved in to my parents' house. She was there for like, we're all there together. We're just like, we just need to get you here. We'll figure out what to do from there.
Yeah.
So that was our situation for 1 week. And then I rented a house like on the spot in Thief River, and ended up moving to Thief River.
Oh my goodness.
So she ended up living with my parents for another 6 months. And I was in Thief River, and then we finally got married. But I mean, our whole time like actually dating, I mean, we saw each other at most once a week.
Yeah.
But we knew each other extremely well from our year of touring together. That
we didn't need
best friends already. There wasn't anything else to know. It was just biding time.
Yeah. So you married her kind of I mean, this is kind of weird to say, but knowing that with cystic fibrosis, there's a high likelihood she's going to die very soon. Yeah. So what did God do to you to be like, I'm still going for this. This is obviously his plan. This is what he wants.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things that stand out in my mind. One of those was like really early on in our year when we were in Taiwan together. I just was having a hard time sleeping. And that was when I was first like really realizing that I actually liked her. So I don't know. I just sat up all night one time just thinking about all this stuff, because it forces you into asking a lot of questions that you would never expect to ask.
Yeah.
So I had to confront like, all right, if we were married, would I be okay? Like, would I be willing to get married to someone that I thought might die within the first 5 years of our marriage?
Yeah.
So I had to think about that, and I, just asking that question naturally made me ask like, okay, so if she dies really young, then what do I do? And like, it's just really weird to be sitting there thinking like we're not even close to dating at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking not only about our relationship, but the relationship after our relationship, before we were even dating. I have to like consider all that kind of stuff. And one thing that kept just coming back to mind, and now that she's gone, like it comes back even more. But when I was in university at Morris, there was a guy, I don't know who he was. I can't remember who he was, but he came and he gave his testimony about his wife dying. And I just remember being really powerful and impactful. And like that just kept coming to mind when I was thinking about all this stuff. And it's like, well, you know, God knows way better than I do. Like, I don't know what's happening next week, let alone 10 years from now.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not going to worry about whether she's going to die young or not. I'm just going to trust that if this is what God wants for me, he's going to work it out and it's going to happen. And if she does die young, then then God's going to use that to do even more things. And, you know, that's where we're at right now.
So how long were you married before she passed away?
Just under 2 years.
Under 2 years. And she's been gone for 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
So how did God use her?
Her specifically?
Well, yeah. I mean, you said like God's going to use it, you know, our marriage and her, however he's going to use her. How did he use her? Well,
man, she had a huge impact on people. I mean, so she did some counseling stuff. Our first year of marriage, she actually was doing online school at Regent University. So she graduated with a master's in counseling.
Wow.
And I mean, but she was counseling people, whether you actually call it that, you know, her whole life. Yeah. And she's the kind of person where, you know, she would say, oh, these are my 3 best friends. But she probably has like 50 people who would say Gretchen is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
You know, because she wasn't like really extroverted and like bubbly or whatever, but she really cared about people. It's kind of funny because she was not very like sympathetic towards people, but she was compassionate at the same time. And I think it was that element of wisdom where she could listen to someone. She does care for them, even if she doesn't necessarily feel bad for them.
Yeah. And
be able to say, hey, well, this is what you need to do, or I think this is what God's trying to teach you. And so that made a really big impact on people.
Would you say she was direct? I mean, she wouldn't beat around the bush. She'd get right to the heart of the matter with people.
Yeah, she's pretty direct. I mean, she was tactful too.
Yeah,
I mean, she didn't like bludgeon people by any means, but she was not afraid to say what she thought needed to be said. But I know for a fact there are a handful of people that are named after her right now, like people that we met on the road that named their kids after her, people from Epiphany Station where we were at church together, you know, that are named after her now. And
wow.
So, I mean, yeah, she had a huge impact. And for me, like, she was always stretching me in different ways, you know, because I don't know, her relationship with God was just really, really consistent, I'll say. And
I was actually gonna say, was it a roller coaster or was it? I mean, I could see how there could be a roller coaster of her just being like, "You're making me do all these things, but at the same time, like, I'm gonna die," and then you got me all these things, and like, what's gonna happen? You know?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that she had ups and downs, like emotionally, but her confidence in God was never ever shaken.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, I mean, she didn't necessarily know what to do with all that kind of stuff, but you know, I think her disease actually had a big part to play in all that. You know, I mean, like she'd have to do treatments for at least half hour every day.
Yeah.
And she's got journals and journals and journals of written prayers. So, I mean, like she's constantly talking to God. So her relationship with him was very, very solid.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I mean, some of that inspired me and rubbed off on me. And, you know, she really helped me grow in being generous. You know, I mean, the job I had at DigiKey was a really, really good job. Mm-hmm. And so we had plenty of money, and she would constantly be like, oh, we should support these people who are doing this thing, or we should give more money to this, or we should donate this thing to the church, or we should whatever. And, you know, at first it was difficult for me. I was like, well, we're doing our 10%.
That's enough that all God needs is 10%.
Yeah, that's it. But, you know, she was constantly pushing me, and I eventually got to the place where I was like, yeah, I actually really enjoy this. But she would still from time to time come up with something really radical. And I would just be like, Gretchen, please don't talk to me about this, because if you talk to me about it, I know that you will talk me into it.
Yeah.
So she at one point like started thinking about, well, maybe we should just give our house away to to these people. I'm like, Gretchen, no, don't ever say that again, please. I don't know what I would do. I can't handle that. So,
I mean, it's been 2 years now. Like, how are you doing? Like, how have you've probably heard the expression, people need to grieve well.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that's a thing? Like, have you grieved well? Like, you know, I lost, my son, Mickey, we lost him 5 years ago, and there's still elements of like, there's days where you're like, I'm still grieving today. Like, this never changes. Like, do you experience that too? Or like,
yeah, for sure. As far as whether I've grieved well or not, I really don't know what to say about that. And I have a harder time even really confidently answering the question, how are you doing? Yeah. Usually when people say that, I go, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, this is the first time I've ever gone through this, you know? And like, I don't have prior experience to be like, oh, well, I did this last time, you know? So there's that, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm coming through it about as well as a person could.
What kind of support structure have you had around you to kind of help?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I was in Thief River. I was living in Thief River when she passed away, and, you know, I was just really invested into the church community a lot. You know, I had one of our friends, he was actually on the same team as Gretchen and I. We convinced him to move to Thief River from Colorado.
Wow.
To Thief River. And he actually lived with us for a year, and he's worship leader at Epiphany Station. He's on your
podcast.
Good podcast.
I was going to say, right. I think he's on your podcast.
But, you know, obviously he was really hurt when Gretchen passed away too, because we were really good friends.
Yeah.
But, you know, he made a lot of time when she first passed away to just be like, I'm just coming over to your house.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe we would actually do something, but more often than not, especially early on, it was like, we're just sitting at the table, just kind of staring out the window together. And yeah, if he had something to say, he'd say it. If I had something to say, I'd say it. So I think those kind of moments were probably the most valuable ones. Gretchen's sister, Hannah, was also living with us for the year up until she passed. Not because of health reasons or anything, just because just like, hey, Hannah, you don't know what you're doing. You should come live with us. And so, you know, we talked after Gretchen died and just decided that we shouldn't really change anything. So she stayed there, and that was really good for both of us too, because we're both introverted people, and obviously both had extremely close relationships with her. So, we could sit, and you didn't have to say anything if you didn't want to. And I mean, you just knew like, today's a rough day for both of us. And so I think those were the most impactful moments, just having someone to just sit there with you. And thankfully there were other people that took more initiative to do things. Like, we were really into board games, so there'd be other people be like, hey, we got to have board game night, and so they'd set something up. And I was on a softball team, so we'd play softball, which was good to get me out of the house and let me be competitive and just take my minds off of all that stuff for a while. So that all that kind of stuff helped, but then it was difficult because I kind of got to the point where I honestly did feel pretty good when I was with people, and so I was at the point where when I was around people, I look like normal Nolan. But then I go home, and then I'm constantly reminded of all the things that we were in the middle of. Like, hey, there's this art project that Gretchen was in the middle of that's just sitting there, and it'll never be done. And this business that we're trying to do, and gifts that she had for people that she didn't get to give them, and this TV show that we were in the middle of watching, all this stuff. Like, it's just constant reminders that life is completely different than it was. So I was really hard to be at home, but then I didn't really reach out to people either because I didn't know what to say.
Sure. Yeah.
I just was sitting there and I'm sad. So I don't know what am I supposed to say? Like, hey man, I'm sad right now. Okay. So, I mean, looking back, I wish I would have done that, reached out to people more often.
Did people, would you almost in a certain way too, kind of though, wish people reached out to you more? Because I think, when we lost we lost Mickey, there's an element of people, like you said, they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. I mean, and the second the first time you meet, like a friend of yours comes and sees you after Gretchen's eyes and they utter the words, how are you doing? The second they utter those words, they're like, that's the stupidest thing I said. I could say right now because I obviously know how he's doing. He's feeling like total crap.
Yeah.
But do you also, in a way, wish like the community reached out to you more? Or do you feel more just a burden on yourself, like I needed to reach out?
Yeah, well, honestly, I feel like it was more on me to do it. I wish they would have.
Yeah.
But like I said, when I was around people, I was more or less normal. So like the indications that I was putting out there, it's not like I was like trying to put on a mask or hide things or deceive people. I honestly felt all right when I was with people. So I'd goof around and do whatever. But then, I think it was way more on me to really acknowledge how I was actually doing and to ask for help.
How did you deal with the alone times? Like, well, how did God shape you? Or I can't imagine you're completely over it, but like,
no.
How's that transition going for you?
Yeah, well, I guess I don't know what to say about all of it, but I'll say, I would say there's like the first 3 months where it was like really obvious, really intense grief that everyone saw and were really supportive through. And then there's 3 months of, all right, he seems to be all right, but really I wasn't at all.
Okay.
And, like the quiet suffering kind of thing. And that's really when I started to spiral myself in a lot of ways. Like I saw lots of issues and different sins and stuff that I had dealt with in the past started coming back. And, like I just wasn't looking forward to anything. I had no motivation. It was really just get through the day.
Yeah.
And then do it again tomorrow.
Whew.
Kind of thing. And I honestly didn't realize how bad it was until I had a couple conversations with people. It was 3 different conversations that finally kind of put all of them together and realized, wow, I've completely lost hope. Like I don't have hope in anything right now. I think the obvious thing for me was that I didn't have anything to look forward to. I was just surviving, and that was it. And so that, with the realization of, all these spiritual issues cropping up again, kind of all culminated one night at like 2:30 in the morning. That hit me that, wow, this isn't something I can just pull myself out of.
Yeah.
Which I think I'd more or less been trying to do. But, it finally hit me. Hey, this is a spiritual battle, totally. And for me, like, the best way to connect with God is through worship and through music. So I grabbed my guitar, and, there's a song that I had been listening to that I really enjoyed, and I was like, that is the song I need to learn how to play. So I was on ultimateguitar.com at 2:30 in the morning in my underwear trying to figure out how to play a song, and figured it out. But then, just basically half sang, half cried it for like the next hour probably. Yeah. And really finally realizing that I needed God to actually do some major things. Otherwise I was just going to keep getting worse. And since then, things have been consistently getting better. And, I think having worship return to my personal private life is a major, major part of that.
Wow.
Just because I am connected with God again. And it's not like I didn't intentionally turn my back on him, but I guess I was just neglecting our relationship after Gretchen passed.
Well, you were hurt, man. It's in a way, it's kind of understandable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm still in that place in a lot of ways. I am far enough out from it now that there are more like concrete lessons I've learned. Mm-hmm. So like the timing of speaking here with you guys is actually really good, because I just gave my testimony at a young adults thing a couple weeks ago, and coming up here pretty soon I'm going to be the sermon, quote unquote, at church, where I'll give my testimony and kind of give lessons and just try to translate that for other people a little bit. So I'm at that point now where I feel like I've got something to say about all of it, and can hopefully express that to people a little bit.
So to kind of wrap it up a little bit, like, what would be some of the lessons that maybe you've learned for someone who's lost someone, but also lessons to then give to those who are friends of those who have lost someone? Like, what kind of lessons for there are multiple people care and love about. We love and care about you, and I remember the funeral and how just incredibly touched Whitney and I were to be there and to witness that and be a part of it. But there's lessons on both sides, like for you, someone who has lost, but then people who are in relationship with you. What would you say is like a couple nuggets you learned?
Yeah, well, so I think at this point, the lesson that God has really taught me, like on a spiritual level, is our hope really does just come from him. Like, true lasting hope comes from him. I could talk to you about moments in the hospital where I got a spike of hope because, this number came back and it was 2% better than it was before. So maybe the odds of her dying are, just so infinitesimally better than they were a moment ago, so like temporary hope got me through the moments at the hospital, but it wasn't going to last over the months of grieving. but the hope that I finally found in God, and the fact that, Jesus has overcome all of this crap that we have to deal with all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we are in a spiritual battle each and every day, whether you realize it or not. We're not going to win that battle, but Jesus can and has.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something that's going to be cemented in me the rest of my life, that hope is found in Jesus, and you need it.
That became tangible for you in a real way.
Yeah, you need it. So there's that. As far as on more practical side, I'm sure this is somewhat different for different people, but knowing my introverted nature, I really wish that I would have reached out to people more. I know there are a lot of people who just don't have the support structures like I do, but I've been blessed my entire life. Like, I grew up in a great church, had great friends who actually want to, live for Jesus and do the right things. And then I got to go to college, and just obviously meeting people at MCC and knowing that I could, call up people and sit at people's homes and talk through stuff, which I did at different times. Like, I always had that kind of support system. Then CTI and Epiphany Station, Thief River, like, I've constantly been surrounded by it, but I didn't do a good job reaching out when I needed it. So I wish I would have done that more. As far as what other people should do, that does, you kind of have to know the person a little bit, but people ask me that question, like, what should I do? And I was like, if it comes to your mind to ask anything about how I'm doing, or to talk about Gretchen, or just tell a story, whatever, just do it. And if I don't like it, I'll tell you.
That's good.
If you ask me how I'm doing and I just don't want to talk about it, I'll say I just don't want to talk about it. But just creating that opportunity is a good thing. And I don't know. I guess I don't think I'm an easily offended person. So if someone asks me a question that is maybe a stupid roll your eyes question, like, oh, of course, like, I don't know, that wouldn't really bother me usually. Like, I see that they care and that they, they're just trying to be there. Cool. I don't know. You can't overcome ignorance without, trying. Like, you gotta, I don't know.
No, that's good, man.
Yeah.
All right. So you have a podcast.
Yeah.
Tell the listeners, the RCP listeners, all 8 of them, what your podcast is, so you might get 4 new listeners.
Woo! Yeah, I think we had like 27 downloads on our first episode.
Yeah,
buddy. We have started the Good podcast, and in case you're wondering, that's a reference to Good Father. We like to rip on Chris Tomlin all the time. So, yeah, I don't know. We're just kind of goofy with like the things that we do and talk about, but it's with Wyatt Gerton, who is the worship leader at Epiphany Station and one of my best friends, who's with CTI, all this stuff. So we talked about him a little bit. And then Sam Hedberg from Ignite Church in Moorhead. We're all sister churches, basically. I mean, we're all related. So anytime we got together, we'd end up sitting and talking about worship. So we're like, hey, let's just do this. And then you guys inspired me, like, because I had actually had the idea for a while, but then I was like, wow, if John and Bobby can do this, holy smokes. Like,
literally anybody with a computer can do it
in the world.
Let's just do it. So, and they were really excited about it. And so we're kind of taking the spin of we don't really know what we're doing, and we're trying to figure it out. And so it's a lot of us like questioning things and just having those conversations, trying to sort things out and bring other people in. Hopefully we'll have a lot of guests on the show to, who can actually provide some real wisdom and experience, since we don't have a whole lot of either of those things. And the hope is that we can engage community, build up a community and engage them, just bring them into the conversation, and that it would be something that will spur growth in all of us to be better worshipers and better leaders.
Cool. Well, where can people go to get your podcast?
Well, you should be able to find it on, the different podcast apps, whatever you use, iTunes. You probably have to flip through like 50 pages of stuff because turns out good and podcast for keywords, there's a lot of things that say good on podcast. So pretty low. Probably the easiest thing would just be to go to goodgoodpodcast.com.
There you go.
You can do that way. So
Nolan, I want to say thank you, man. This testimony is awesome. I'm, excited for what God's going to be doing for you in the years to come, and what He's already done with you, and how that's impacted different people's lives. Your wife's testimony is awesome, and it just goes to show that God can use anybody at any time for anything. Yeah. So thank you for being on our podcast, and we would love to probably roast any of your worship ideas. I don't know, we'll come up with something and then we'll roast those maybe later on.
Sounds good.
All right, brother.
What do you think about this?
Yeah, we'll probably say no, we don't like that anymore. We're done with worship. No, I don't know. We'll just take the other side of the coin.
Worship is obedience.
Worship is obedience. That's right. So
cool,
brother. Thank you for joining us, and have a fantastic day, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll chat with you later, man. All right, bye.
See ya.
Yeah, bye. All right, well, now it's segment time, and today's segment is going to be top 5 movies. Now, I have a little Google Keep document, and I just started listing off movies for myself.
Okay.
And then went to top movies ever rated. I'm like, have I seen this? Oh yeah, this is going to be something in my list. I recommend this movie. And I got a list of 20 movies or so here, almost 20. How do I copy this whole thing? I can't. That's dumb. Yeah, that's really dumb. How do you? Oh, I think I could put it in the notes, keep notes. You're gonna see this here soon. Here we go. Tools. Just hang on, listeners.
Our simultaneous
we're trying to do everything at the same
is
time.
slow today.
I know. Oh, here it is. Keep notepad.
Woo.
Can you see it? The keep notepad on the right?
No.
Yeah?
No.
No.
Do I need to open
add to document. Here we go. Bam! Segments. Add to
there
document.
we go.
You see it?
Well,
Boom.
now it's in the document.
Yes. Okay.
That's not 5, Bob.
No. It's 18. But I'm struggling with. They're kind of in order. I did a preliminary order.
Okay.
It's not perfect, but it's a preliminary order. So I'm gonna.
These are ranked in order
right now.
Whereas mine,
it's gonna float probably.
Okay, because I tried to pick 5 that probably do not encompass really my top 5, but you got to pick 5, so
sure,
something's gonna get cut. But in no particular order, because there's no way I could rank.
Okay, so
certain ones
did you
above the other.
Yeah, put in your 5.
No. I'm going to keep it a secret.
Well, type them in here so I can see it and judge it.
Oh.
How else am I going to judge you if I can't see you? All right. Well, I'll start with mine as you're adding yours. Okay.
Okay.
I'm just going to rattle them off quick.
Oops.
You're writing in mine.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Messing with your brain.
Rocky, Godfather, Shawshank Redemption, 12 Angry Men, Goodfellas, Star Wars A New Hope, The Hustler, Hunt for Red October, Cool Hand Luke, Usual Suspects, Interstellar, Good Will Hunting, Arrival, Brian's Song, Major League, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Wow.
Now, and I just thought of this one too. Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. Now, I only say that some of these have more sentimental reasoning behind them. So, Major League has sentimental reason. However, I do think Major League has the greatest line in movie history, and that is when asked. whether or not Serrano should take Jesus Christ to help him with this, hitting. Serrano replies, instead of, because he has a voodoo doll named Jobu that he prays to in order to help him with the curveballs.
Sure.
So he's like, Jesus, I like him very much, but he no help with curveball. And the other guy says, are you trying to tell me Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball? To me, greatest line in movie history. So that's also part of it on there. Okay. So yours, go.
Okay, so mine, basically, I judge my favorites based on how many times I can watch them. Mm-hmm. There are some movies that I'm like, dang, that was really good. But then I only watch it once or twice, and it can't make the cut. So basically, if I could put every single Star Wars of the original trilogy on there, I would.
Okay.
If I could put all of Christopher Nolan's movies on there, I would. Okay. Wow. Those are pretty much my staples.
You're kind of in bed with Christopher Nolan?
Yeah, a little bit.
Your man crush?
I did find his short. He has a short film that was his first thing ever called Doodlebug. Doodlebug? Yeah. It's a little bit creepy. It's on YouTube. You can find it. Okay. But since I've seen that one, I've seen every single Chris Nolan film he's made.
Wow.
And I like them all. Doodlebug's a little weird, but whatever.
I still like it.
Yeah. Okay, so number one, and probably significantly first, is Interstellar. No Country for Old Men, The Matrix, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Inception.
Okay, I thought about Inception too. I thought about adding that to the list. It still might go on the list because that was a really good movie.
It is a really good movie. Yeah. There are a few things I hate, and one of the things I hate is how culturally popular the whole Inception thing has gotten. Oh, like you get a taco inside of a taco, and it's like, oh, it's Tacoception. Yeah. You're like, what? Like, so is
society kind of ruined?
The movie. Yeah,
has it kind of ruined Inception for you?
But I guess on the flip side, like, it's cool that a movie that I love and a director that I love has become that ingrained into culture. But it drives me nuts. The reason I like Inception so much is because he deliberately does not tell you what to think at the end.
Yeah.
He gives you enough evidence for both. Are they in a dream?
Now that is a real better world? He still did a better job than I forget who did 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, Kubrick. The same one who does The Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. So, but Kubrick is like, I left it purposely open in the middle for interpretation but it wasn't like the interpretation on that was way too open there's no possibility of anything. What are you even trying to say?
Right.
The end of Inception, Nolan, spoiler alert, was, is it Inception or not Inception? There's two options and leaving it. So
is it a dream or is it real?
Yeah, is it a dream or real?
But he does that with a lot of stuff, I guess. Like he plays with that in Memento. Mm-hmm. Is he the protagonist?
That was a good movie too. I almost put that on there.
It's a great movie.
All right, so my 5 right now, and I'm not even looking at it. I'm like, maybe I'd move The Hustler up a little bit. I have Rocky, Godfather, Shawshank Redemption, 12 Angry Men, and Goodfellas. I have I like the Italian mob movies, so those have a special place in my heart. Godfather itself is just a flat out awesome movie.
That is a movie that probably everyone should see.
Yeah, that's one. Yep.
Even if it doesn't hit your top 5 ever, you got to see it.
I would say the same for probably every movie on my top 5. These are ones you just got to see. Rocky is not what if you don't really know Rocky. The original Rocky is a love story. It's not about boxing. And that's what I love about the movie. That's one element of the movie, how just incredibly simple the story is and how you can relate so easily to Rocky. And then just out of nowhere, what he stirs in you during the fight scene with Apollo Creed. And also the incredible shift in cinematography and how they filmed boxing for that movie. I mean, there were people who, it was told in the screenings in the theaters, people would get up and cheer in the theater for Rocky.
Yeah.
And that's just like never done before, right? Like, it's just like, it changed how people saw how we could do this in film.
Right.
And I love that kind of element about the film. Rocky has a special place for me, so that's probably why it's ranked higher than Godfather. But Godfather obviously easily could be named number one. 12 Angry Men, great movie. I've only seen it a couple times, but I should watch it again. It's just a phenomenal film. So well done. What a crazy, awesome concept of just it's going to be 12 dude in a room the whole movie. It's fun. It's really great. So those are my 5. What are you going to roast on my 5? I'm going to roast Matrix for you.
They're all really old.
They're all
I don't think you have a movie in here that's 10 years
No,
or
not
newer.
even close. No.
Maybe not even 15.
Shawshank would be the earliest. The latest out of all
the
of
most
these.
recent.
The most recent. With I think 12 Angry Men is the oldest. Followed by Rocky, then Godfather, then Goodfellas. I think Rocky was done before Godfather.
Yeah, Shawshank was 94, dude.
Holy cannoli.
There's nothing in your list younger than 20 years.
Yes. Maybe that's something you should learn. No.
Maybe.
But and then later on I have the Star Wars A New Hope, The Hustler, Cool Hand Luke. So I have some old Brian Song, Over the Top, Monty Python. Yeah, I got some old movies.
Interstellar and Arrival are like the only ones within this decade.
Jeez, yeah. Okay, but The Matrix. Okay. The Matrix for you. Why is that a top 5?
Primarily, I think it's the rewatchability.
What about Arrival? Now rank The Matrix against Arrival.
Matrix against Arrival. Arrival was good, but not as good. I guess for me, the themes that are presented, I don't know. The Matrix blew my brains. Like,
sure, yeah, it was transcending.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's an element. Definitely an element for.
It's one of the only action movies that is philosophically as engaging as the visuals are. And how they play with color. Like when you're in the Matrix, it's green, very, very green. Yeah. And when you're out of it, it's blue and it's drab. There's a lot of things in there that come unexpectedly from an action movie. And Morpheus is the coolest person on the planet.
Sure.
He hits it out of the park.
Transcendence in a movie is a big factor. That's why I picked Rocky as number 1 because of how it transcended in its time too.
Yep. That was one of those movies. I mean, I remember people like, 'cause, dude, I saw it when I was like 10 or 11. Yeah. Well, probably 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. But that was one of the first movies that I heard like grown-ups raving about. Mm-hmm. Like I remember Mark Haugen being The Matrix, man.
Mark was having his
he would just go on and on. Yeah. He was. And that may have played a part because I'd never heard somebody like about a modern movie. Mm-hmm. Like you've always heard people talk about The Godfather. The Godfather is just, it's a standout movie. Yeah. But The Matrix was one that I like while I grew up, that one came out and was like, that's a staple. Mm-hmm. And I think it did also change movies and stuff. I mean, it held world records for how many still cams they used in action scenes. Yeah. They had skyscrapers being blown up and it looked real. Yeah. So there was a lot to it. And I think, honestly, to make a movie where your main character is Keanu Reeves, and amazing, and it works.
You did a fantastic job.
There was some magic going on behind the scenes.
That's probably true. All right. Well, those are our top 5 lists. So what I'd like to hear from some of our viewers is post on Facebook or Twitter your top 5 movies and why you think we were right or wrong. Hashtag it with RCP movies so we can compile them together and we'll find out other people's lists and share those maybe later on. So I wanted to, again, give a special thanks to Nolan Nordlund for joining us and being so open with us and talking about his grief and his process. We really pray that is something that can impact someone's life who's going through something or maybe will go through something later on. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Download previous episodes on iTunes, Google Play, or at roastedchristian.com.
And tell a friend.
And tell a friend, hey, like our pages, get to see our stuff. We're not bad.
I mean, I don't think so.
It should be like Roasted Christian. Not bad, eh? So, all right. Well, this has been the Roasted Christian Podcast. I'm Bobby.
I'm John.
Thanks for listening.
You're welcome.